NBR, Nothing But Rants, a show where I find topics that I'm rather passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I am hot about.
Nothing but rants.
Hot takes.
3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. You know Brooks finna cook, let him rant. Try to do it like us, but you can't. Stay the young, going down with the chance. Big plays lead to even bigger bands. What's up? What's the word? What's the play? What we talking about? On the scene with the team, yeah, we popping out. NBR, let's get it, let's go. Film guy, get on ready for the show. What it is, what it ain't, what's happening? We gon' hit you with the stats and the facts, man. NBR, let's go. Film guy, get on ready for the show. 3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Hey, shout it end zone dancing. We about to start it up, it's the anthem. That right, big rings got me handsome. Hold 'em up like we came for the ransom. I'm in the field, 2-minute drill. Highlight reel, let's review, what's the deal, okay? Watching footage going out of control. Buckle up, we got an hour to go, so let's go, that's straight heat. Ain't no chillin' around here, back to back, Nat Chance, how we feelin' around here? Got my whole squad in the building around here. If my name ain't on it, then I really don't care, come on. 3-point stance, we advance. Ball in my hands, I don't take no chance. Touchdown dance, that's my jam. No hot takes, this is nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants. Nothing but rants.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Film Guy Network on a fabulous Sunday afternoon. This has been it's funny seeing JD Piquel of On3 just across the way over here in the lobby of this hotel. By the way, we are prayers up for this Wi-Fi stream, hoping that it holds strong with signal. But it's funny seeing him across the way here, about to get ready to do his show. Because the only reason we started doing Sunday streams during the year, Sunday reaction shows, which turned out to be our biggest show over the last 2 years in terms of national college football talk. I mean, it averaged well over 25,000 streams and views every single time we did a Sunday reaction show. The only reason I ever did it was because JD Piquel mentioned in passing one time, if you're not giving opinions on Sunday following a Saturday, you ain't doing it right. So we've always been back on Sundays doing live streams. We're here again today for a very special one, as tomorrow we conclude the 2025 college football season with this national championship. I always call it 2024, despite the fact that we have a massive 2025 behind us. But we conclude the season with this national championship between Ohio State and Notre Dame tomorrow night. Obviously got our final predictions and all that good stuff coming for you guys today. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the network. Okay, we're on the doorsteps of 50,000 subs. Hope to get there pretty soon. Had the joint press conferences between both head coaches today, and your boy actually got the first question for any aspiring journalist. Here's a good little tip of the trade for you guys. Make sure you make friends, or at least eye contact, bare minimum eye contact, with the flag holder, the person who holds the microphones and goes out and hands the microphones to journalists and ask questions. Make eye contact early, make friends early, probably gonna get in the early lineup. So we got question number one today, and I think it's the most important question considering these two football teams that are playing tomorrow night, and it was about retention. We talked about it yesterday, right? The take is on retention. That's what these two football teams mean the most to me. Obviously, they've spent a lot of money and gone out and used the transfer portal for keynote football players. No more important than Will Howard on the offensive side of the football and Riley Leonard on the offensive side of the football for both Ohio State and Notre Dame. But you look on the defensive side of the football as well, and an All-American in Caleb Downs and a nickel defender for them, Jordan Clark, two additions out of the transfer portal that have made tremendous impacts on this roster. right? Everyone points to those. Everyone knows about those. Those are important additions. But the real reason, in my opinion, that both of these football teams are in this national championship is because they've been able to retain their football players, the good ones, things we talked about yesterday, right? They spend money, and I don't think you're getting to this point anymore without spending money, but I also don't think you're getting to this point anymore without veteran football players. I look at the last several national championship teams, and these are football teams that had what I would classify as slow burns, right? Builds up to the crescendo that ultimately lead them to a national championship. And especially now with the 12-team playoff and the expansions of conferences and whatnot, you're going to play guaranteed 15 games to win a national championship. You might end up playing 17. So not only do you need to be deep and need to be veteran, but you need to be connected as a football team as well, right? Because when guys go down or when games are tight late in the football season, being able to know that, you're connected as one. I think that's one thing that both these teams talk about a lot, the unity amongst them. It sounds cliche, it sounds goofy, but at this level, I think 10 of the 12 teams remaining had north of $16 million rosters. All of these teams are extremely talented at this point in the year. You have to be connected, but I think you do definitely have to be deep and veteran. All these guys talked about the amount of snaps that they have played in college football and the importance of that, right? I look back at those teams that I mentioned that walked through slow burns and trial periods, right? You think about the Michigan team from last year. The Michigan team had brutal losses in playoff games to Georgia and to TCU, embarrassing losses to both of those football programs. And we're on the precipice, right on the doorstep of winning a national title. I think about those Georgia teams in 19 and 20, and hell, even in 2021, losing to Alabama in the SEC championship game. They were going through trials and tribulations, and it was year over year growth and growth and growth. Guys deciding to come back and buy in to the overall mission that they've been dedicating themselves to for the 2 or 3 years prior, coming back for that last pivotal year and ultimately coming out on top. All while developing those football players, right? All while getting those guys to maximize their talents and maximize their abilities. I think about these two football teams, right? You think about a football player like Xavier Watts. That is a sign of development and retention, right? Xavier Watts is a football player that came to Notre Dame as a wide receiver, okay? He is an All-American safety now. All right, I think he had maybe a 4th or 5th round draft selection, a draft grade last year, decided to come back this year, and he's an All-American, right? We've talked plenty on this network over the last several days about Ohio State's veterans getting much, much better. You guys know those stories, right? The Jack Sawyers of the world, the JT Tuimoloau of the world, number 91, who I always forget his name, right? All those guys that have decided to remain on this roster, not only remain, but get better, okay? And I think that is one of the primary keys and requirements, if you will, to winning a national title. And I've got a simple on-paper plan to win a national title. What are required to get to this point? What is required, rather, to get to this point? I think these are bare minimums. These are the things you have to have and have to do to get to these points. I think this goes for every college football program. Rule number 1, I think you have to recruit at a top 12 level. Notice I did not say top 3 level. Okay, I said top 12 level. I think you have to recruit at bare minimum that right there. You have to have one of the best 10 to 12 rosters every single year to give yourself a chance week in, week out to get to this point. Not only do you have to recruit at a top 12 level, I think you have to develop, and here's the important part, at a top 3 level. You have to be better at everybody else, and not just getting players, but making sure that those players reach their ultimate potential. Both of these football teams exude that, okay? Number 3, have the money to retain great players. Once we develop them, people are going to want them. They're going to want them to leave, whether it be the NFL, whether it be other programs. We've got to have the money to be able to retain those football players nowadays in college football. It is what it is, right? The money came first, but after that, it's the culture to retain these players. You've got to have these players want to stick around your football program, okay? That's important as well. Number 5, I think you have to coach and execute at a top 5 level. I think Ryan Day has had the year, probably the best year of his career as a coach, not to mention the fact that Chip Kelly got into the mix here as well. All right, Marcus Freeman has obviously done everything he can to get his football team to this level at this point in the season. So obviously they are extremely well coached as well. So I think that's a requirement. And last but not least, and it's been a requirement in college football for a long time. It will remain a requirement in football in general moving forward, and that is good quarterback play. I think you have to have really, really good quarterback play. There's no doubt about that. And look, I don't think Riley Leonard is a first-round NFL prospect. There's no doubt about that. But what Riley does really well for this Notre Dame team, as does their offensive coordinator, they manage the game really, really well, man. That's what was surprising to see him have the turnovers that he did against Penn State. Luckily for Notre Dame, they were able to overcome them. But that's not normally a turnover-laden football player. That's normally a guy who understands the circumstances, understands the situation, and doesn't put the ball at risk. So I think that's the last and honestly sometimes most important requirement. Got to have really, really good quarterback play and leadership, right? Those guys have to provide a sense of belief from their teammates. This is still college football, all right? We still have to have an emotional hold on the teammates that we're playing with at all times. So there's that. Now, those are the requirements. I guess J.D. Piquel has a TV in the back of his broadcast. Those are the requirements. Let's talk about the cost to meet those requirements, because we are in a bottom line business nowadays in college football. Player acquisition strategies come with cost, literal financial cost. So I think it costs nowadays about $18 to $25 million on your roster. I don't know the full NIL deal of what Notre Dame's got going on, but I know their quarterback makes 1.5. So if the quarterback makes 1.5, you could imagine that the roster's making as a total of maybe 16. They've got a top 12 roster. So I think you've got to be somewhere in that range of $18 to $25 million. And that's before we start talking about rev share. That's the current model. Once rev sharing comes in here, we're going to blow that whole thing up. We're going to have to decide how we want to, allocate our $20.5 million of NIL and then start bag dropping everywhere else to make up for the net delta. That's a whole macro discussion. But right now, I think it costs about $18 to $25 million to have really, really good football players on your roster and retain them. And it costs about that in terms of staffing. All right. If you look at both of these staffs, Notre Dame and Ohio State, they are very well paid, very well paid. I mean, Chip Kelly is the highest paid offensive coordinator in the sport. I would imagine Al Golden's paid pretty well as the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame as well. And both football coaches make north of $7 million. So you're going to be paying out extensive amounts of money to go out and win these games. And look, maybe you can overcome some of these things and have a real team of unity and all those things, and maybe you can just win in the margins. But like that's what Notre Dame did to get here, and let's not act like they're not a good football team, right? I've told y'all for weeks on here, they're a top 12 roster, year in, year out, have been for decades. So say what you want about the schedule, say what you want about the loss to Northern Illinois, say what you want about the talent discrepancy that they've been in over the last 3 games that they've played in, except for Indiana, perhaps, right? Say what you want. They got a really, really good roster that they've spent year after year after year cultivating and developing and squeezing the most out of. I don't know how many teams in college football can lose 8 starters from a year ago like they did. They lost starters to the graduation. I think last year in that film study that I did of the 2023 matchup between Ohio State and Notre Dame, I think Notre Dame had probably 8 graduate seniors on the field last year. Okay, both defensive ends, both linebackers, both edge rushers. They had a bunch of veteran football players on that roster last year. They leave. The only returning starters are Riley Mills and the corner that didn't play all year because he got hurt early on in the year, and Howard Cross. So they returned 1 of 11 starters essentially from their starting unit a year ago, and they're the second best defense in college football, only behind perhaps Ohio State. I mean, nobody thought that. I didn't think that was going to happen. I don't think Notre Dame thought that. Notre Dame fans listening today probably thought that was going to happen. Sure, you go out and you add Jordan Clark in the transfer portal. Sure, you had a lot of real talented football players returning at safety and at corner, and graduate seniors and additional years from COVID and all that good stuff probably helped out. There's no doubt about that. But I don't know how many teams I watch year over year lose 9 starters, 10 or 11 if you include the injuries from this year, and they're better. That doesn't happen in this sport normally. That is a testament to coaching and development. There is no doubt about that, because they are playing phenomenal football right about now. All right, let's start talking about the keys to the win. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, and rate, reviewing, all that good stuff. All right, let's talk about the keys to the win. Let's start with Notre Dame. Key number 1, get to the 4th quarter with a 1-score game. I do not doubt this team's ability to stare an opponent in the face and know that the opponent's going to blink when it comes to execution. If they can get this one into a 4th quarter 1-score football game, they're comfortable, man. That's a 12-round fight to these guys. That's where they want to go. I talked about it the other day. They are Nate Diaz, all right? They want to get hit in the mouth for 3 quarters and then show up in the 4th when you're exhausted from throwing every shot you got, and then they're going to outlast you. That's what they want to do, okay? So if they're down 2 scores, 3 scores in the 4th, you can just pack it up and send it home. They're going to have to take these guys into deep water and make it a 4th quarter football game. The other key I think that is very important for this Notre Dame football team, and it's going to sound like an offensive key and maybe a slight towards their offense, but I think they've got to flip the field at least twice on either special teams or via a turnover. Reason being, I think we all can sit here and say I think it's going to require at least 24 points for Notre Dame to win this football game. They're going to have to score at least 24, 20, 27 points in this ball game, and at minimum 24 points is 4 scoring drives, right? 3 touchdowns and a field goal. I'm hard pressed to sit here today, 24 hours from there, 36 hours from this game kicking off, telling you that I think Notre Dame's going to put together 6 or 7 or 8 scoring drives against this Ohio State defense. I just don't believe that to be the case. Okay, so if you're going to have to score 24 points, and maybe it takes 5, 6, 7 possessions because we're settling for field goals because they got a great red zone defense. Well, we're going to have a couple of opportunities already there for us, right? We got to flip the field via special teams or a turnover. And they've been great in both categories. They've turned teams over. They've created explosives on the special teams departments. They've certainly won games doing exactly what I'm talking about. They're going to have to come out tomorrow and manufacture an opportunity to do exactly that. Notre Dame's done a tremendous job of out-executing their opponent for 4 quarters, all right? Overall, I think they've got to do so in the run game specifically in this one, offensively and defensively. Offensively, I'm not going into this game praying and leaning on, we're just going to get an explosive from Jeremiah Love. We can go ahead and mark that down. I don't necessarily know that to be the case. I wouldn't bank on that. What I would bank on and what I would mentally prepare for as an offensive coordinator is being efficient in the run game, finding ways to get into 2nd and 3, finding ways to get into 2nd and 2. And avoiding being in 2nd and 9 in obvious passing downs against this Ohio State defense, okay? Because the combination of the pass rush and the ability to disguise coverages, you're going to be in a tough spot if everybody in the building knows that you're throwing the football. And the only way you're going to be able to do that offensively tomorrow night is to be able to, again, be efficient on the offensive side of the ball, running the rock with Jeremiah Love, 24 and 20. All right, now, on the other side of the football for Ohio State, or rather their offense, right? You got to do the same thing. You got to limit their run game with light boxes. I tweeted about this a little bit earlier. Way too much of the analysis, myself certainly included, has been about, is Notre Dame going to play man-to-man? Are they going to do what they normally do? Are they going to pressure the box? Is Jeremiah Smith going to crush them? Emeka Egbuka, you can't cover. Way too much talk about that and not enough talk about, hey, you can play man coverage as long as you have 2 high safeties. As long as you can stop the run with the 6 bodies in the box required to do so, and you don't have to add another safety, meaning we go from 2 high safeties to now 1 high safety, you're okay. I think they can play man-to-man coverage. And I know Ohio State fans will listen to this and say, oh, that's dangerous, asking Carnell Tate to not get open. I know Carnell Tate's really, really good. Covered him in high school, IMG Academy, top 100 football player, going to be an NFL guy. I know he's good. Those Notre Dame guys can cover. They can cover. So I trust Notre Dame to be able to cover him by themselves. I don't trust them, right? No one does, to be able to one-on-one with Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka. But if we can play 2 high safeties, as I showed you on the board this week, we can bracket cover those 2 guys, all right? But we got to put everybody else on islands. So that leaves G. Scott an ability to get loose on linebackers, right? It leaves us vulnerable everywhere else, but no shit, guys. That's what good offenses do to you. They make you vulnerable in certain areas. And I didn't even talk about the ability for both of these quarterbacks to use their legs, right? And I think that's something everybody knows Riley Leonard can run. We see it in the stat sheet. That's something that Will Howard and this Chip Kelly offense have really used when they need to, right? They closed out that Penn State football game with Will Howard's legs. I imagine if they need to, they're going to close out this football game tomorrow night with his legs. Defensively, I already talked about, I got to make them one-dimensional with light boxes, man. I don't care if you play man-to-man. I don't care if you play man-to-man as long as you got 2 high safeties. As long as we keep everything underneath, as long as we make them go 10 to 12 plays to score. If you're dying short deaths, if you're getting slit with the samurai sword, all right, you're in trouble. You got to make them crawl. All right, Ohio State keys. Remain hot off the start. All right, remain hot off the start. That's simple. Everybody sees it. Everybody talks about it. And they've certainly gotten off to tremendous starts over this playoff run. And it's a key for them. It's a key for Will Howard's success. It's a key for his confidence. It's key for that offensive line that's had a bunch of moving parts in there as well. So it's a major key for this Ohio State offense, and they've done a tremendous job doing so. Now, I expect Notre Dame to come out with something a little bit different. Okay, they did it against Penn State. I don't expect them to just line up and play the defense that they've been playing the last 3 weeks because of the way Ohio State has started. So if there is an adjustment early on in this football game from Notre Dame coming out of the tunnel, okay, and then ultimately they settle into doing what they do. But if I were Notre Dame, I would be mixing something up in that first drive to make there be some type of hesitation where it's not, all right, we worked on these 12 plays of this opening script against man coverage or against what we're expecting to see. Now it's exactly what we expected to see. Let's go play smooth and let's go play free. I don't know if you're going to be able to do that. I don't know if I would want him to be able to do that. So if you're Ohio State, right, we've got to get on the ball early. I think it's both offenses. We got to get on the ball early. We got to get set. We got to get some pre-snap motion and some indicators of what the defense is actually doing, okay? Get lined up, get some pre-snap motion, change one guy from one side of the line of scrimmage to the other, all right? See who travels with them, what travels with them. Do they bump and slide, or do they run clear across from them? Get some type of man zone indicator from Notre Dame, and then proceed to hunt like they have over the last several football games. How good can their run coordinating be? I think this is an important question for this football game because of how good Notre Dame's defense is, particularly against the run. In general, they're really, really good. But being able to stop the run and having really, really solid run fits, you can't run at Notre Dame. I think this is something that, particularly our Georgia fans listening to us, you'll understand this, right? You guys opened up the game trying to run around them. Penn State opened up the game trying to run around them. Penn State had a lot of success. Georgia did not. A lot of fans and people like myself wondered, why isn't Georgia trying to run at these guys? Well, simple answer, you can't. They wrap, they twist, they're way too gap sound when you try to run at them north and south. So how many different misdirection things, counter, power, trap, end arounds, jet sweeps, how many of these different, B gap and beyond type of stressors in the run game can we coordinate as an offense? This is something that Chip has really elevated in over the last, basically since Michigan, something Kirk and I talked about yesterday, first name basis. Herb Street and I talked about yesterday during media availabilities. It's like, man, yeah, the passing offense has jetted. The passing offense has taken off tremendously, but the run game design and the diversity of the run game over the last 3 or 4 starts for this Ohio State offense have been a major key to their success on the ground. The other one, have your weapons beat theirs. Nice and simple, okay? If they are going to play man-to-man, which we all expect them to do, okay, even if it's not 100%. I had some Notre Dame fans hop in my mentions or in the comments yesterday going, where'd you get this 85 to 80, 90% stat of man-to-man? It's not a verbatim stat, okay, because I don't have a Pro Football Focus account. I don't know who's out here diagnosing and charting every single defensive snap for Notre Dame. But what I have is every single snap of Notre Dame during their playoff run on the defensive side of the football. And I'd ballpark it about 80 to 85% man-to-man coverage. Even when they do run zone coverage, it's cover 3, and it's zone match with corners rolled down. So we can talk ball if you want to all day. They're a man-to-man football team. Argue with a wall. Anyways, if that's what they're going to be, you're going to have to beat them, right? There is no out-scheming them. Something Chip talked about yesterday. Yeah, we can create bumps, rubs, we can create all that stuff. But at the end of the game, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to how many 50-50 balls do we win? How many tight coverage football plays do we win? Corners on your hip, do we win it at the point? Okay, running a drag across the middle of the field on a tight end, linebackers on your hip, do we win it at the point? Those things are going to determine the difference, okay, between the outcomes of this football game, all right? If they're going to be a man-to-man football team, you're going to have to match their execution as well, all right? I think that's the key. Beating Notre Dame, not just having, good football players, not just being well-coached, but being a 4-quarter execution team, you're going to have to out-execute them. That's the way that they play offense and defense. Defensively, the man-to-man, responsibilities, the man-to-man scheme of it is basically saying, my guys are going to beat your guys. There's no specialness to it. There's no, hiding or disguising. I'm lined up in front of you. Can you beat me? All right. So same thing on the offensive side of the football too. When they're trying to go 8 to 12 plays to score, that's their method, is Notre Dame's offense. That's them saying, for 12 plays, we're going to out-execute you. We're not going to try to haymaker you once. We're going to jab, 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 open the body up, hit you an uppercut a little bit later. All right, that's how they want to play football. You're going to have to out-execute them for 4 quarters. All right, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. Let's get into our final predictions of this football game. By the way, I will have some type of live stream tomorrow from the stadium, so be tuned into that one. Make sure you have the show on alerts, all right, so you don't miss any of our live streams or any of our broadcasts, particularly in the off season when schedules can tend to be a little bit sporadic, right? We'll be popping up all over the place this summer and this spring at different events and different, scouting combines and different things. So our time slots are going to move around a little bit with these live shows. Make sure you tune in whenever and however you can. Let's start. Let's talk about this final prediction. That coffee got cold. You know what we haven't done in a couple days? Should we try to Zen pop in the middle? Oh, and then he fumbled it. I'm talented. Final prediction time. About 15% of me, a small portion, less than a quarter, about a small portion of me believes that Notre Dame can rock fight their way to a 17-14 victory. I really do. I really do believe it. I watched Texas try to do this last week and then do what Texas did all year, which is fail to consistently execute in the second half. Okay, as good as that football team, as talented as that football team was, those boys constantly stalled in the third, constantly made the wrong play in the fourth, constantly busted assignments, doing goofy shit. All right, so they constantly were doing that stuff. Notre Dame does not. There is a portion of me that believes that. Small, 15%. The other 85% of me thinks that this Ohio State team defensively is just way too much. Everyone talks about the offense. I think that offense is going to put up 24 to 27 points tomorrow. It's the defense that is insane. And I've been listening to these Ohio State guys, that cover this team. They talk about it because they know what it is. All right, I've got Ohio State winning this football game 27-17. Again, I just think their defense is way too much. Now, here's what I want to talk about. All right, here's what I want to end today's stream with before we talk to you tomorrow. Do we feel weird? Because I certainly do. Do we feel weird that nobody, and I mean nobody, apart from Notre Dame beat writers and the guy on social media that just wants to be different, is picking Notre Dame to win this game? Nobody. Nobody's giving them a shot. No one thinks they can do this. And every single time that happens, at least in my memory, in college football, it tends to be a whole hell of a lot closer than the experts think. Not so fast. One of them things. All right. I get weird vibes. And here's what I'll tell you. There is no simulation, and it might happen just so I can get clipped because the take guys want to look out for me and humble me every once in a while. There is no simulation in this football game where I think Notre Dame's out here getting their doors blown off. They're too well coached. They're too well executed. They're just too damn good of a football team. They don't have great football players. I don't think they have 12, 15 NFL football players. They got 5 or 6, okay, 7 or 8. All right, they're really good, but damn, they play hard. They play well. They execute really well. I just don't think this is some 42-10 affair. I don't think this is some 35-10 affair. I think it's a 27-17 win for Ohio State. And there is, again, a portion of me that says there is a one-score game in the fourth quarter and Ohio State blinks because Notre Dame ain't. You're going to have to beat them. They're not going to beat themselves, and they're going to force your hand to potentially beat yourselves if you get in that situation. Appreciate you guys for being here, man, during this live stream and during this, year of content. We'll, like I said, be back again tomorrow. Here's what I want to challenge you with on the way out. All right. I had a bunch of people yesterday with the blue suit, the blue tie, and the white shirt say that I looked like a televangelist. Okay. So here's what I want to challenge you with. I thought it was funny. I laughed a good bit. Someone said, welcome to Men's Warehouse. You're going to love the way you look. I like all of the takes. So here's my take on this suit today. Here's what I think I got going on. I think I look like the guy that stands out in front of the kiosk at the mall that sells asexual, like gender neutral lotion. You know what I mean? Like exfoliating lotion. That's what I got going on right now. The open collar, either that or like, nice car salesman out here selling Mercedes Benzes, maybe. I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all think of the fit. Shout out my boy Jerry. We coming through next week for another one because the suits are fire. All right. Appreciate you guys. Lesbian's a good one. I get that one quite often. It's the haircut and the general slimming of the face has made that happen as of late. I just used to get fat jokes all the time. Now we get, he might swing the other way. Well, the same way, but he might, you get the joke. Appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to get out of here. Love y'all. Bye.